What's going on, everybody? Gentleman94 here. Welcome back to Ben Builds. This is the Albatros. We are on episode number 10, and we are pushing right along today with detail painting. Now, last episode, we did a little bit of work on the wings. We did a little bit of work on the fuselage. Today, I want to pick up with the fuselage, and we're going to continue to paint up some of the detail areas up in the front of the nose. We've got some vents. We've got some hatches. That should be pretty easy to do. Also, the wings themselves look very nice. I like how this turned out. We might have to do a little bit of blending a little bit later, but I think for right now, we're good. I'm going to set those aside and really just focus on the fuselage. Now, the fuselage has a rear tail, has the vertical stabilizer and then the horizontal stabilizers, as well as there's a fin at the bottom there that actually sticks out where the landing skid will go. We are not going to attach these just yet. The reason being there are some control cables that have to be glued into the fuselage that are strung out and attached to the back of the horizontal stabilizer. So I don't necessarily want to attach anything yet until I get everything kind of lined up and get a good idea where I'm supposed to drill those holes. They aren't marked on the fuselage, so I really can't say. I have to kind of eye it and adjust it. That rear fin also, there's two cables at the bottom, and that rear fin will keep me from drilling those holes. So we're not going to do that just yet. But anyway, we're going to put those aside, and we're just going to focus on the actual tail plane themselves, because I want to go ahead and attach a couple of the, hooks that the wire cables will attach to when they come out of the actual fuselage. Otherwise, this is pretty easy. The whole thing will be painted white, so we'll actually have to string those after we paint the tail white, because I don't want to airbrush over those cables, and I think we should be pretty decent. So we're going to focus, though, today. We have some hatches and some reinforcing areas, too, that have to be that gray-green color. So I have my masking board all set up here. We're going to make some quick cuts. We have some masking already ready to go, and I'm going to use this tape, and we're going to start masking off some of the areas up front. We're going to start with the wing joint. There's actually four little, reinforcing metal strips that are attached there, so we're going to mask those off, and those have to be painted that gray-green color. A little bit of that light gray by Vallejo with just a couple of drops of the dark green, also by Vallejo. It's all the model air color, so it's pretty much ready to go right through the airbrush. So we're going to go ahead and mask this off. Then we're going to come back, we're going to airbrush it, and hopefully this should look the part. Let's go ahead and take off these masks and let's see how we did. The nice thing about using masks and using airbrush is the airbrush lays on a nice thin coat of paint. You don't really see any brush strokes. But the downside, of course, is that when masking off little tiny areas, it can be super time intensive. So you really kind of have to brace yourself for a long, kind of drawn out masking process. It took me quite a while just to mask off these four little areas for sure. But so far, I kind of like how it looks. The color looks similar to the nose area, so I think we are pretty decent. I'm going to pull the rest of these masks off. Okay, with all that tape off, I like how this looks, but we do have to fix the front one right here. This is a little bit too odd shaped. I'm going to take my Tamiya tape, we're going to fix it up and mask it out. All right, that's all taken care of. We are ready to go for some detail painting. Now I'm going to use my fine brush. We're going to use whatever's left over in my paint cup for this gray-green mix. And we're just going to paint up the vents and the hatches. There's enough here to take a little bit of time, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in the time lapse, and we're going to get those all painted up. All right, I like how this looks. It took a little bit of time getting all those little vents painted up, but I like the color. I think everything looks really cool. So we're going to go ahead and shift over to the last of these little hatches we have to paint here on the bottom of the actual fuselage. So I have my blue tape all set up here. Got my handy dandy template. We're going to go ahead and carve out one of the smallest holes here, and that's going to be our mask. So I'm going to take my pin vise with a little bit of a pin in there, and we are just going to, I guess, score. It's a good word. We're going to score around inside of this hole, and we're going to pull out the center section. That will give us a nice mask to go ahead and cover over and expose just that little hatch at the bottom. Now lining these up is going to be a little bit of a pain because I really want to make sure that I don't get any of the gray paint on the wooden finish because I don't have anything to repair that wooden finish with. I would have to then come back through and redo the whole process, and I don't want to do that, so I want to be real careful with how this goes on. Now we're just going to take a little bit of paint, brush it right around there, pull the mask off, and we are done. So I'm going to do the rest of these, and then we'll be back, move on to the next area. So the last little bit I wanted to paint here on today's episode is the back tail. I don't want to do the white yet. I want to do that little black strip. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of tape that's about the width that I want for that black strip, and we're going to put that on as if it is the actual black strip itself. Once I have that lined up, we'll be able to use that as kind of a marker, and then I'll be able to take the other Tamiya tape that I'm going to use as my mask, and then go ahead and drop that around the side, keeping the overspray to a minimum. At least that's my plan. We'll see if it works. I was kind of hoping they'd have a decal for this, but they don't, so we're going to have to go ahead and paint it. But that's not really that big of a deal because I think we can muscle through it. We should be able to get a nice, clean line. So let's go ahead and cross our fingers and hope this actually works. So we've got some flat black right in the airbrush, and we are just going to start by airbrushing right around the tail. Now I'm not too concerned about overspray onto the actual tail itself because we're going to paint the entire thing white anyway. We are going to actually have to come back, and we're going to then mask off just this black band. Then we'll shoot everything else white. That should be, I think, decent enough, and it should give us that nice clean demarcation line between the white, the black, and the wooden finish. Now that that is all painted up, let's go ahead and remove this tape and see how we turned out. All right, nice. Okay, that looks cool. Again, just look at the clean line. Don't look at the messy line because that's going to be overpainted with white anyway. But I think we're going to call it here, guys. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. Till next episode, go out, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something wacky, crazy, enjoy yourself, and we'll see you back here next time on Ben Builds.